All right. Thank you so much, Leo, for joining us for our first AMA session. It's a new initiative which we are launching as a part of Empower and also as a part of the mentorship program. Just to, you're such amazing mentors and we have a group of such an amazing community. So we want to make sure that we share, your wisdom to the entire community and take it beyond. And with this virtual world we are living in, so many people can get use from this. So that's the idea behind the Ask Me Anything sessions. Don't worry, we won't go to like too personal Ask Me Anythings, and like we'll stick to the professional side of things. So yeah, thank you so much for doing this again. And just a few housekeeping items for everyone on the call. Feel free to put your questions down in the chat box anytime during our conversations. And then at the end of the segment, we'll just leave it open for everyone to, chat, ask your questions, and do anything that you feel like asking Leo or we may have missed in our conversation. So please feel free to use the chat box during the call. And then at the end of the segment, we'll have a Q&A. Okay. So to start things, I personally don't like to introduce people, and I like people to introduce themselves because I think we never do the justice. So how about Leo, you give a little introduction about yourself, tell us something, interesting about you.
Well, yeah, I come originally from Colombia, and I was way back, but I still consider myself as a newcomer to Canada. Yeah, in January it's going to be 22 years since I moved here, but I moved 2 times. I was transferred to different countries, and I have to come back 2 times to Vancouver because I love this place. This is amazing. I have a computer science background as well as business administration or commerce. The reason I didn't do MBA, just a Bachelor of Administration, was because I wanted to work in the stock exchange in Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to get in is you have a BA in finance or something. But I didn't like it because it's too uptight and I'm relaxed, and they check, what brand of suit do you have? And I'm not that type of person. So I prefer the IT world.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved to Canada, 22 years ago, and it was very easy to find a job because IT, as I say, I have worked in 12 different countries, and IT is always transferable skills.
Okay.
And I've been moved different times, and when I came back 2 times in summer, it was very difficult to find a job. Because summer is dead, everything is too slow. So I was able to see how difficult it is to find a job. But I've been always helping people since, I don't know if you have a memory, since I was in Colombia. I like to help people to provide mentorship, coaching, anything. I believe in creating good karma. And as my father say, even if I don't consider myself to have enemies, because I try to make arrangements, it's better to have a so friend than an enemy, because this is a small world, especially in Vancouver or anywhere you can encounter other person, and it's better that this person is not an enemy, because you need a job, a reference. Try to make amends with your ex-boss, even if you don't like him or like her. So it's always to have healthy relationship, not meaning, again, not high five, low five, but somebody that you can ask for a reference. And it's very key. This is very important, and for networking, anything. And I think that's part of my success with people, because I believe in networking, regardless if it's for a job. I mean, we live in a social world right now. We're being so isolated because of the phones, not COVID. So it's so difficult to find new connections. Not impossible though. But for me, it's different because everybody's different. But I encourage people to try to expand your network, because that's the key thing, I believe. Instead of spending hours in your resume, cover letter, no. Build a relationship. They stay with you all the way. I mean, almost until you die or you screw it up. But a resume, it has a purpose, and then it's gone. By the time you spend with connections, they stay forever.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, you touched base on so many great things. I think that message I have similar with you. I always believe like it's a small world. You always cross paths with the same people. So it's better to just leave things at like, non-positive way rather than leaving it in a negative way, right? Doesn't serve any purpose. So you're touching base on a lot of great points of what we're going to talk about later. And I could totally see, why you love to be a mentor so much, because you have so much to share. So you said you came here like 22 years ago, if I'm not wrong. And then And so did you come here and did you study anything, or was all your educational background back in Colombia and you just jumped into the employment market here, just so that the students who are here, they can see how, educations from overseas is relatable to getting into the industries here?
That's a good question. In my case, in IT, or maybe I don't know what other fields, you always have to be up to date, regardless of, oh, I came from MIT or something, but still you have to prepare yourself because otherwise you'll be outdated, right? So I came here with, experience, but I was working with mainframes, old computers, and I have to adapt. So I took some training to find a job. I found it very quickly, but I always kept up to date. I took the business analysis course at UBC, was the first one. And I was lucky because by the time I started, it was online, and I started working in Mexico and Costa Rica. So I have to travel a lot. So I was able to keep up to date, studying at night, working long hours during the day. And then I was transferred to Argentina. And I kept going. And by the time I was in Brazil, I finished it was a certificate, but it was very useful because I found a job in Canada again, thanks to that certificate. So I believe it's very important to don't rely on what you have. It's very competitive. Imagine if you apply for a job, because that's part of the Empower, mission is, you have to always imagine you're competing against people around the world. Many people wants to live in Canada, or to include you, for instance, from Toronto. So you compete against the whole world when applying online. The ATS, the applicant tracking system, it doesn't filter, oh, you're applying from India, from Morocco, Germany. No, it just is checking who has the qualifications. Some people bluff and they go to the interview and they don't know anything. They were able to get the interview. What's the main purpose of a resume is to get you the first interview. That's it. That's what you need. So it's important to keep up to date. And when you're doing those training, you make connections. It's not only what you learn, but the connections you make. That's why right now is reevaluating the online training. How much money you're paying for that, for instance. Is it worth it to go Harvard, $80,000 a year?
Yeah, you mentioned such a great point of keeping yourself updated. I mean, I can see for an industry like yours, when technology is changing every single day, it is so important keep yourself on train and up to date. So when you originally came here, and you just mentioned that you did a lot of certifications, you keep doing them throughout. How did you identify, apart from your personal learning objective, that you should be doing these certificates? Is it a requirement in the industry? And if it is, are there a few certifications you could recommend to the new students who they should be already keeping it in their radar when they're trying to get into the IT industry?
Yeah, that's another good question. So I don't believe too much in multitasking, because then you're going to do a sloppy job one way, either at your workplace or preparing for a certification or a master's or anything. So you have to plan. For instance, in my case, you have to prioritize. Are you guys familiar with agile methodologies? There's product backlog, so your priorities, and they change. So you have to set up a goal. Okay, this year I want to achieve these 5 main goals. I always say something for sports. For instance, last year I competed in triathlon first time in Canada. You have to put something that is meaningful to you, right? Included with that is certification. I always try to put something, okay, I want to study this certification, so I need to plan the time for it. Once you have the time, then it's very important, okay, how I'm going to achieve this goal. And then you go to the SMART. It's very specific, and you have to make sure that it's something that when you're studying, it doesn't affect your job that you're doing, because that's key. You're kicked out of the job, and then finding a job, then you cannot study, you cannot pay for anything. So you have to be focused. So one step at a time, find a job, and then, okay, when you stay with the job, okay, then go for training. Try to find the low-hanging fruit. What does it mean? For instance, some people ask me for a BA, business analyst. Oh, they have finance background. I want to just get rid of it. No. Finance is a very good background, because there's some BAs that have the finance background. Try to find the company that you really want to work for. Say, okay, I want to work for Deloitte, because then you can move up the ladder. There's so many options. You try to enter into that company in the field that you're comfortable with, pass the probation period, and then focus, okay, what do I need for training? And then either that company or another one. But then you have to be careful what you're selecting and focus on that. And it sometimes, some people think that there's a straight line to get what you want to do. No, it's a roller coaster, but you have to enjoy it. You have to find the time, and eventually you get there. Sometimes it's not in 1 year or 2 years, but you always have to be focused on always push for it. Sometimes things might change. For instance, you studying something. For instance, I took the AWS training, Amazon Web Services certificate, solution architect, very tough to take. I passed it, and then everything changed. Right now, I'm working with Microsoft Azure, which is fine. I started training again, but you always have to keep focus and don't demotivate yourself because now the certification is useless. No, but it's an achievement.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like everything, and as you said, like you always have to prioritize and pave your ways and see what things works for you. Like it could work for someone else, but might not work for your personal goals and agendas. So you've been in this industry for a very long time. Like, do you think like your educational background, like I know you touched on this a little bit, like your educational background, like a specific degree or specific certifications are something that would help students get into it easier, or is it more so? What do you think about networking? But like if there are any certifications students could do that could increase their chances on getting like entry-level positions in IT and data analysis, which certifications would you say would be that?
I personally don't think certifications replace experience. So there comes a loophole. Okay, so the chicken or the egg. I don't have the experience, so I can get a certification, but I don't get a job. So how can I do it? In IT, is building your portfolio. Same as people who are a painter. So, okay, I do nice drawings. Oh, show me your portfolio. Okay, you have this portfolio, you show and tell. Oh, yeah, I like it. Okay, you're hired, or maybe not. So that's one way to do it in IT. You start building your portfolio of applications, projects you have done. Go find volunteering organizations. For instance, there's so many nonprofits that they're a mess. You start, okay, they do in Excel everything. Try to organize it. Okay, again, networking. You made contact with them. Hey, I can help you guys to organize better. There's so many free places that you can put your data, and sometimes it's not compromised, meaning it's not personal identifying information. So you can have something like a small project, have a nice website, and they have graphics, and wow, they like it. And then you ask, okay, can I share this information as the portfolio? And they say, yeah, fine. So now you have something to show and tell. So that's a good sales for itself.
Yeah.
And that's why I believe that has more value than sometimes the certification per se.
Yeah. I mean, that's true, right? Like, I totally agree with that. But when we are looking at it from a point of view from a student who is per se 1 or 2 years into Canada, super, super fresh, and didn't have the time to build like a very diverse portfolio, are there a few things, especially if they're looking for an entry-level job, that the students who are particularly interested in entering into IT or data analysis could do that could increase their chances? Like, and if you talk about portfolio, is there anything while they're studying they could add to their portfolio which would make them more marketable in the market?
Yeah, for instance, when I was working at Visier as a business intelligence consultant, we were invited to they have a degree in BA in economics, but they have very good analytics background. And it was a good thing because they were in year 3 or 4. And I told them, hey, try to start building your portfolio. Don't wait until you finish your degree. Sometimes they have the co-op program, which is very nice. I always encourage people, hey, so it's 1 extra year, and in the end, it's almost 2 years of experience. And that's so valuable. People don't, oh no, 4 years, very short time, I finished my degree. No, try to get some experience because that's so valuable. Even if it's a small project, it doesn't matter. Just try to do it very nice and you can explain very well. That sells a lot. And then it's way better than focus on certification because certification is not studying overnight to take an exam. No, it doesn't. Right now, certifications are months. You have to study for months because you have to really learn how to do the product. So at the same time, you could have built your own portfolio, just 1 or 2 scenarios. And then that's what I said, try to touch base with nonprofit organizations. They don't have the money. If you approach them to do something for them, they'll be happy. They have the data and a reference. So you can accomplish 2 things. The reference, which is very important. You don't have any experience. Okay, then you have a reference. But you have the portfolio to show and tell.
No, for sure. I mean, that's the great value you added about having co-ops. I think they're so important and they really, really help you, build like a diverse portfolio. So let's say like someone is looking to get like a co-op or an entry-level position, but, just trying to enter the industry. What are a few different positions? Like if you could go a little more specific, like the names of the positions or the companies or the like different kind of, levels they could be aiming at as a co-op to, gain that entry-level experience students in IT?
Yeah, sometimes one role that is not the best one is database administrator. That one you have to be very knowledgeable about for instance, Oracle, for example. But it doesn't take too much time to learn. I mean, in my case, but I don't know if it's too related. I mean, mostly related to IT in this conversation, but anyway. So you can try to find similar jobs. For instance, when you apply as a permanent resident in Canada, there's the job ID or job national
NOC code.
industry code. Okay.
Yes.
If you put data analyst, I think there are 20 different roles or job position names. They're similar. Trying to find something that is similar and try to get that. For instance, they're financial analysts, but they have to rely on that. So business analyst or junior business analyst, system analyst, sometimes even programmer. A programmer could be a data analyst because they can write in Python very quickly and do some analysis, even cleansing, part of the analysis. So there are different ways to accomplish the goal to get a job as a data analyst. For instance, my role, I'm supposed to be a data analyst, but sometimes I am data architect. Of course, you need to have broad knowledge. Sometimes I'm ETL programmer. So I have to massage the data. I'm okay because I'm a programmer too. But some people want to wear only one hat. So that's why you have to be very flexible and trying to find something similar word. You can go to Indeed to find the word data and try to find related jobs. Read the description and then you say, oh, I think that's a role that I could be doing. And it has a completely different lane. So that's why I encourage people to try to find something to help you out with the description, because then you know you might be missing some job ads that, oh, it doesn't have the data analyst position, but it's very similar.
No, that's so much great information. And you can go as specific as you want to, because the audience ultimately are the people who have knowledge of IT, definitely more than I have, but they would probably relate to it more. But so feel free to go as specific as you want to, drop in the name of the languages, codes, like everything's fine. So like we've talked about the educational side of things, and from the gauges things, I get that experience kind of counts more in IT because it's a very hands-on technical industry, right? It's not about more so creating those relationships as it works in finance. So when I personally like to know this, and I think it could help a lot of students as well, that when it comes down to like a personality, per se, interpersonal skills, what are those, do you think, that it takes to succeed in this industry for someone who could be a little confused about, is this for them or not? Like, what are the few personality traits that you think it takes to, succeed or go long term in IT?
One thing that is very important right now in IT is they work in collaboration with different teams. For instance, I work for Dell, NTT, so big corporation, and we do consulting jobs, same as CGI. And it's always key to be working in agile teams, as I mentioned. I don't know if everybody's familiar with agile, but there's collaboration, there's scrum meetings, and we check in the morning, hey, how are you guys doing? What you did yesterday, any blockers? Oh yeah, I have a problem here. Oh yeah, ask this guy, he can help you out. Okay, there's collaboration, meaning you have to be social, you have to be able to mentor, or even on the other side, you might not think, oh, I'm the one who does it all. No, sometimes you need help, but you're able to raise your hand. Hey, I think I know a little bit, but I need help, because then the whole team will be blocked because you have to deliver something by the end of 2 weeks and then you fail. And then people say, hey, why did you ask for help? Because the last minute is very difficult. So that's why collaboration in social skills, communication skills, it doesn't have to be perfect. I have an accent, but I think I try to communicate myself as better as I can. Of course, writing is sometimes more important than speaking, because, okay, some people have a heavy accent, but they send, wow, very nice emails that you can check properly the spelling and stuff. I also encourage people go to Toastmasters. I don't know if you're familiar with Toastmasters. It's very important. I went to all the way to Distinguished Toastmaster. I organized contests, and it helped me a lot, especially to listen. Sometimes people are talking, but they're thinking, oh, how to refute what this guy is saying. But they're not thinking, okay, listen first, and then you can properly answer. And that's key, because when you're talking to your team members, another stakeholder, you're trying to understand, you need to have a good conversation, understand, ask questions. The 5 whys. Why do you need this? Why do you need? No, because it is nice to have. No. Why do you need? Is this very important or not? For anything, not only IT, finance, you need to have good communication skills. Toastmasters is very good. One of the things that I encourage people.
Yeah, for sure. I think communication skills goes, as you said, it's not just verbal, it's written, and it goes so dynamic, and it's required at every level, right? Collaborating, I think that's, as you said, you have to be a team, right? And that's how everything works. Project, I can assume IT is very project based, and if the project works, that's only when everybody succeeds, not just you. So if you have to like list, now we talked about, the interpersonal skills and like the personal side of things. Now, if you have to list like technical skills, right? What would be like the top 5 technical skills? It could be any language program or anything like that you think a recent graduate needs to have in order to get into the industry or succeed in the industry. Like if you have to rate like the top 5 per se.
For instance, even though I used to program in all languages long time ago on operating system, the SQL language, structured query language, it hasn't almost changed at all for 20, 30 years or so. And it's, again, one low-hanging fruit. You can get a job very quickly, and then you can move on. Especially, okay, let's try to go to a big corporation, like Accenture. So find a job, get there. Okay, I'm in this company. Now I can move, explore. So that's the most important SQL. You must know any programming language. Hopefully, like C#, Java, Scala. I know it's very popular and it's fast. Or something that is not so, it's very easy, but it's not so fast, is Python. Python is very useful. Right now, you can, for instance, you're familiar with Amazon, Azure, or Google Cloud Platform. You can just rent a huge set of rack servers, and you can run millions lines of code or anything, or processing. So, and it costs you maybe $10, $20 instead of, or $100 a day. I mean, say you pay for it just to try it. You $100, it's fine. But then you test it, and it's very easy to learn, and then you have the libraries and stuff. Another thing that you need to learn, it depends. I saw a question about QA, for instance, Selenium, right? So one thing that is very popular for quality assurance, people need to know how to program. Before, it used to be people writing test cases. No, now you have to write the automation test, because you have to write the whole thing. Maybe how to test it, how many people are going to access, simulate 20,000 people accessing, sending messages, to the message queue, and then being processed. So right now, it's not only, so I had ex-colleagues, they refused to program. No, I like QA because it's writing test cases. Guys, you're going to get obsolete. And people say, oh, because you're old, you're discriminated in jobs. No, because you stop getting up to date. You have to take training. I'm old, maybe look like your father or something. But I compete, I colleagues that may have my age, but I don't care. Sometimes I know more than them, and I can adapt quicker. So is your mindset. So when I used to work before at Dell, they had people in their 60s, very smart people, and they always challenge themselves. So again, try to have basic languages, of course, including SQL, so that you know the processing, databases. Linux is very important to know some commands. At Udemy, you can learn one course, 1 or 2 weeks. You can get your feet wet to pass the interview. And one thing to add, I think I used this phrase before, and from Richard, what's the name, guys, of the Virgin America? What's the name of the Richard Branson? The guy who Virgin the airline. Anyway, Richard Branson, yeah. If he said, if you had the opportunity to get a job, but you're 100% ready, still take it. You learn the job while you're doing it. And it's key. I have done that so many times. I've been a IT auditor, security analyst, project manager. I had no idea about project management. When I was a BA, of course, I took training, but I jumped and I started working on it. So again, try to have the basic skills, and you have to jump on it and see what it goes.
Yeah, from what you're saying, like the crux I could get it, like you have to be a continuous learner and you have to always be up to date. And it's not an industry where you could just sit back and relax and, plan yourself to get like obsolete with, companies like Google and Amazon with things coming up every single day. Like, I don't think so that's an option. So let's get like very basic. And I'm like trying to get a gauge of like your work days, for someone who's completely outside the industry, who has no idea what it is like. What would you say, like your work day looks like, and what are like a few highlights of it which you really, really love, and what are a few things that you really don't like about the job that people should know who are trying to enter it?
Yeah, for instance, at CGI, maybe consulting firms are different because you work as a consultant, but then you're an asset from the company, and they put you in different projects. It's not like working, I want to work for Lululemon, and they have Microsoft Power BI or Tableau, and they have Microsoft SQL Server. Okay, and they keep that forever. I don't know. Here at CGI, no. Of course, I have experience with all databases and everything, but for instance, that project, they wanted someone with experience with Azure, for instance. I said, I don't have experience, but I can learn. I say, okay, but you have certain skills that you can learn very quick. After 3 months, the project changed or was folded. And no, then you have to work with Oracle, for instance. Okay, Oracle. So you change your hat, you have to show that desire. I mean, the good thing is that sometimes they don't force you. If you don't like to work on that, then you can say, okay, I don't like this type of project, and they put you on the bench. But it's a risk because you're sitting on the bench and pay you for just doing nothing. So that's why you try to, I mean, to see whatever is coming. So you have to be very agile, very adaptive. And they want someone like that because projects can change. Sometimes they're an RFP for a certain technology and it doesn't get approved or somebody takes the project away. So then they put you something, you might not like it, but you still learn something. So that's why it's very important to always be open-minded and learn. Right now I'm working, for instance, with the government of British Columbia for the Ministry of Health. Very bureaucratic. Oh my God, something so... But it's okay. There's always something to learn. So you have to be proactive. I have to jump on. Want to do something quick. No. Take it easy. But I understand that the privacy, they have to follow protocol, the process, everything is documented because if they get audited, it must be somewhere written. Also, so you start learning. I used to create policies for IT in Latin America, for instance, for Tyco, a big corporation. So I know why you have to do that because otherwise the company gets fined and you're not able to work or something, or so that's why it depends. Sometimes if the job description says something and you get hired, things might change. Even the same company, the license gets too expensive, started a new CEO, oh, let's go big data, let's change everything. So you have to adapt. No, sorry, I don't know this technology. Well, they put you on on hold, but they keep you an eye. And the next person has to be on is you.
Yeah.
So that's why it's I love my job because it's always fascinating, surprise. So it's always, oh, what's coming? You try to plan, but there's always something different the following day or something. But you have to be agile again.
No, you definitely seem to love your job too much. So I don't think so you got to the point of like, you have to tell you, everybody has a few things that they don't like about the job. Or like if there's something you could change or people should be aware that they might not like. So what would those be like if you have to put a finger on them?
Yeah, sometimes, again, going back to the relationships and networks, sometimes you don't get promoted when you deserve it. Oh, why I cannot get this? You want, because sometimes there's internal competition or there's a job ad from people on the outside say, hey, I can do this job or even I can increase my salary. So you have to challenge your manager. Sometimes it's tough because they see you all the time doing that and they don't see you as an opportunity, but maybe because you're so reliable. I mean, they rely so much on you for that project. So that's why they want to give you the opportunity. But sometimes from the manager perspective, from HR perspective, they say it's short-sighted because then you leave the company and then you're gone. It's better to have you in another role because then you can come back and mentor or help. But if you're gone from the company, you're gone. And that's very expensive. Imagine how much time you spend, the know-how, the project, everything, and the trust, which is very important, trust.
For sure.
Sometimes, you don't get it. You try to challenge. You have to challenge your manager. Hey, where I'm not getting this. And if it doesn't work, go with HR. I file a case. Hey, I comply with this. And if it's a big company, though, NTT, Dell, maybe CGI, I could do it. CGI is very nice with employees, but other companies, maybe IBM. But you have to always talk to escalate. Try to your manager, it doesn't work. HR. And they go back. And they cannot retaliate. If they retaliate, they get fired just so quickly, they won't see it coming, even though you're a manager. But still, they go somewhere and they keep an eye on you and they spread the word out. So you have to be careful what you're doing. But always reach out to your manager and escalate.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, for sure. Like that's very great. Like I think if you never object or if you don't question the decisions, then they're just giving it to you, right? And then you're just gonna live with it. So it's always good to question in the right way and not like poke someone's egos, for sure. So you've been in this industry, I think, for long enough now. So you've seen like a phase of like what for like quite in different countries and for a while in Canada as well. How do you think that COVID has changed like your industry in particular, and how do you see things that would be different per se in future for students who haven't even entered the industry yet? Like how do you think it could look differently from what you have seen in past decade or so? Like how has COVID changed things for you?
One thing that COVID has changed for me I mean, working from home is a challenge always. 'Cause, yeah, it's boring. I mean, I'm a social person, so like to, even though you can take SkyTrain, for instance, in Vancouver, commute by train, see coworkers, you work hard, but there's a coffee break, you chit chat. So it's a thing that, and suddenly you put on the side. I mean, you have to focus working from home. So there's no, okay, when does it start and when does it end? Sometimes working 14 hours, 12 hours a day, and then I was burning out. Oh my God, this is too much. Luckily, the project finished, and now I'm working different pace. Now, for new grads, it's a challenge because yeah, I'm always promoting networking. How do you network when you're at home?
Mhm.
Okay, now you have to go to the social net. For instance, the Facebook, the Instagram. Those are nice, but goes to nice to have, but it's not a must. For instance, LinkedIn.